Hey there, Rockstars. Want to tell you a little bit about what you're doing today. In addition to continuing to work on the percent problems, I'm going to ask you to get started on our final project for the school year or for the semester, which is creating a menu. I'm going to ask you to be creative and to think of, if you could have any kind of restaurant in the world, what would you serve? And I'm going to ask you to actually make the menu. Be as creative as you want, be as artistic as you want. The only thing that I will score based on your menu is not how many images you have and what it looks like, although that is important, because obviously if you have an ugly menu, people aren't going to want to eat at your restaurant. But I'm going to score you on how reasonable your prices are. For example, if you're charging me only 99 cents for a steak dinner, that's probably not enough. However, if you're charging me $50 for a slice of pizza, that's also unreasonable. So the only grade that you will earn on your menu is how reasonable are your prices. I'm going to ask that you have different sections of your menu: appetizers, main courses, drinks, and dessert. Your restaurant is going to be non-alcoholic, both because it is unhealthy for your brain to, while it's developing, drink alcohol. It's also illegal for you to serve alcohol until you're at least 18 years of age. And most importantly, in terms of math, calculating tax is different when you serve alcohol versus when you don't. So this is going to be a non-alcoholic restaurant. And what you're going to do once you have your menu created, you are going to create an imaginary bill or a cuenta for your restaurant. And then you're going to use that to use percents to calculate how much you would have to pay if somebody went out to your restaurant. So let me give you an example of a restaurant that I go to often. Every Friday night, my wife and I get burritos from the plaza down near where we live. And our bill, or our cuenta, basically looks like this. We get 2 burritos. Each burrito is $10. We also get a quesadilla for our little son, and so that costs $5. We each get a water. The waters are $1.50 each for $3. My son gets a juice, and then sometimes we get him a paleta. So I'm going to take all of these items, I'm going to add them together to get what we call the subtotal, which is $30. But as you know, I don't just pay $30 because there are some other things involved. Mostly what's involved is something called tax. Here in Panama, tax is 7%. So I'm going to ask you to pretend that your restaurant is in Panama and to calculate 7% of the subtotal. So I have 7% of $30. This is a percent problem. You can solve this however you'd like. Ratio tables, within, between, multiplication. However you can figure out how to find 7%, I want you to do that. I have found 7% of $30 is $2.10. And then what I have to do is I take my total, which is my subtotal, plus my tax, and now I have a new total, or $32.10. Sorry, my marker's kind of running low here and it's a little difficult to see. But now I take that $32.10, and if I'm going to a restaurant, I have to leave a tip for the people who brought me my food. And you are required to leave a tip. You can choose how much you want to leave though. 10 or 15 or 20% are typical in terms of what restaurant clients leave for their staff. So if I'm leaving 15%, it's not 15% of 30. It's 15% of the 30 plus the 210, or 32.10. It's the bill plus the tax. So I have to find 15% of this new value. Well, I know 10% because I'm just going to divide by 10 and move the decimal. I know 5% is half of this. Now that gives me half a cent. That doesn't really work, so I'm going to round that up. So if 10% was $3.21, 5% is going to be $1.61. So 15% then will be $4.82. In order to figure out what it is that I pay, ultimately what I pay at the end is my total, which is my bill, plus the tax, plus my tip. So if I add those all together, my wife and I pay $36.92, which is true. So what you're going to have to show is, well, part 1 is the creation of the menu. Part 2 is, what is the bill? And part 3 is the calculations of tax and then tip to figure out what you pay. Okay? Good luck. If you have questions, I'm available.